There are three elements every great presentation needs. Get them wrong, and no one will pay attention, no matter how good your idea is.
Have you ever poured hours into a presentation only to watch your audience completely tune out? The hard truth is, if your message isn't converting, it's not because you lack information. It's because your hook failed to create tension. And when the hook fails, absolutely nothing else matters.
We've all experienced the frustration of delivering content that educates but completely fails to persuade. The secret behind every high-converting documentary or sales pitch is that it engineers a psychological journey instead of just listing facts.
There is a specific layered structure you must use to remove skepticism, raise the stakes, and drive a massive shift in fundamental beliefs. When you use this architecture, your audience won't feel like they are being sold to. They will feel like they've discovered something they simply can't ignore.
Today, we are revealing the exact step-by-step framework you need to master this kind of behavior engineering.
So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode of The Sandbox.
Welcome to The Sandbox Live.
Turning complexity into clarity.
The Sandbox Live.
The Sandbox.
Welcome to The Sandbox. My name is Rob Souza.
I'm Brian Wayne.
And we're here to help you, financial professionals, figure out how to leverage all of the resources and tools that are coming out so fast, like drinking from a fire hose. And my background, obviously, is for those of you who haven't heard, the financial background and marketing, but more specifically, 15 years in the financial industry with my family that's been in the industry for 45 years. And yours,
marketing, sales, or lead generation.
30 years, Facebook ads, all of that. And we've come together to try and help financial professionals catapult themselves into the future, because we've been doing the traditional dinner workshops
forever, right?
Tried webinars during the pandemic. But what we wanted to do today was help provide you with the information that you need, whether you're presenting in any of those three formats, we help develop compelling storytelling documentaries as a sales funnel at wealthvids.com.
With the purpose of booking appointments, getting leads.
But we're going to also give examples for those who are doing webinars. And then we're also going to give examples where you can do a live presentation. But the essential elements to make an effective presentation, what are those three elements that you feel like if they're not done correctly, if you don't include all three, and if they're not done correctly, no matter how good the solution, the proposed solution is, that either people won't listen, they'll tune out, and then won't take action to engage with that particular financial professional.
Yeah, there's definitely a formula to crafting a story, pulling people into the presentation that you're trying to tell them, to get, number one, get them to listen, and then to understand what it is you're trying to do, and then hopefully persuade them into taking action, into doing the thing that you want them to do, whether it's book an appointment, get a consultation, buy something.
So now we've been leveraging AI tools to help advisors do this more effectively, because often it's very, very frustrating for advisors. And I went through this process and challenge for over a year, is if you haven't learned the process, how do you accelerate your learning curve on getting a presentation down with the essential elements correctly? What we're here for, and what I partnered with you for, was how do we leverage technology to shorten that process, make sure that the elements are there and it's constructed properly to have an effective outcome, so it doesn't take 100,000 and 12 months to figure it out.
Well, number one, I guess, would be join the Sandbox.
Well, of course,
The
but from a technology
from a
standpoint.
technology standpoint, I've used AI so much in ways that most people aren't even talking about. It speeds up learning. It's like a turbo boost to understanding a topic, arguing with AI, having a conversation back and forth, asking questions. The thing I've discovered is the better questions you ask, the better answers you'll get.
Well, and specifically, you're talking about the AI revolution, of course, and that's
Yes.
where we've leveraged.
Mhm.
And there's so many tools. If you'd like to get a list of the best case tools that we have tested extensively throughout our whole entire team, and same with your team as well, you can go to the Sandbox, and for right now, it's absolutely free. And there's lists of all of your tutorials, every resource that you've developed, and every AI platform that you have vetted and chosen to recommend it to help advisors construct their presentation or
Yes.
speech, webinar, documentary film. Doesn't matter. You've given them the formula. You've given them the right AI tools to use to develop that formula. But I just wanted to open the conversation before we get into the formula and the examples that we're going to show you so that you can easily take what we're showing you today and implement into your very, very next presentation, no matter in what format. Before we get into that, let's just quickly address the elephant in the room, and that is, can AI do a better job than a human financial professional, salesman, than a human themselves learning it for themselves?
This is the debate that's been going on ever since the whole AI thing came out. Is everyone's worried it's going to take jobs away or it's going to replace people, and it's the deeper I get into it, the more and more I understand it's just a tool, and you need the human driving it. It's like it's a, like we talked about, it's a force multiplier. It's only going to take.
Wait, I like that force multiplier.
It's a force
I'm gonna
multiplier.
write that down.
It's because it's only going to. It takes what you put in, your knowledge and your understanding of different frameworks or the way the data, is all supposed to be constructed. Like when you do a illustration, you have to feed that into it for it to understand what it is you're talking about. And then it will give you the explanation. It'll put it in a 5th grade reading level. But if you just say, how do I save money on my taxes? It's not going to know what to give you.
How do I teach people how to do Roth conversions?
It's going to be
literally
generic.
just going to be a step-by-step.
Yeah. AI can be very, very generic if you don't give it enough detail. And the more detail you give it, and then that's what we've been talking about and learning about is with storytelling too, is it can't write the story if it doesn't know the facts. And if you don't tell it, the who, what, when, where, how, why, it'll take all that information. It'll turn it into a great story, but it'll only be using the data that you give it.
So I would say it at least for now, until we see the advancement of AI. Right now, if financial professionals, business owners don't learn how to be the navigator.
Yes, the navigator.
The ship, the speed, the efficiency of getting where you want to go is so accelerated by AI. It's mind-blowing.
It is.
But if there's not a navigator, you'll just end up in the wrong place faster.
Yes. Yeah. Or, it'll just be very fast, generic content.
or very fast failure, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing more frustrating for any salesman or financial professional to spend all of this time and invest all this money to fill a room with people and then show up and you feel like you've given this compelling instructional guide, numerical proof, and how their strategy is better, and then you get one appointment out of a room of 25 people.
And that's a great point, and that's what we'll talk about later on too. Is that's why story is so important, because I think a lot of people, when they give presentations, they're just giving reasons why, and of course you understand it because you've lived it, you've breathed it, you understand like the importance of it and the results you get, but you're just giving all these reasons, trying to convince someone to do it without really tapping into the things that they care about, the emotions that they have, the tensions and the anxiety that they're experiencing, which with a good story, that's what you do. At the end of every movie, my wife's crying. It's because they made an emotional connection in that story that, tapped into something that they were feeling.
Well, and it is interesting, and we'll just wrap up on this and then jump into your formula for how to create a great persuasive presentation that engages people, that's memorable and draws them in and persuades them to take action. But I remember I could tell so many stories. I'll tell one story about an advisor that opened his presentation with not his credentials, and not who he was and who he worked for. He started out by telling a story of how his daughters were obsessed with wanting to rescue dogs from some commercial they watched, and how he got into rescuing dogs and how much that became the identity of their family. And that inspired him to switch careers from broadcasting to actually rescuing people's retirements. But I remembered that story more than the other 100 presentations I've seen, because he showed images and videos of like his family, here's a dog we rescued, and here's how they got a dog.
Oh,
yeah, and who doesn't like dogs, right? So, and I've used that as an example, and all of the financial professionals in our network can't remember his name, they can't remember his company, but I tell you what, it's the dog rescue guy.
It's the dog guy.
It's the dog rescue guy. You know who I'm talking about. And that's because of story. Story does something in our brains that anchors something very powerful. Now, I'm going to tell one last one, and I apologize because I said I was only going to do one. And that was my dad's story. My dad started in 1978 selling just strictly life insurance, term life insurance. So when people start out in that industry, it's like sales, chasing people. So like he hires a pool guy and he's like, oh, I'm going to go try and sell the pool guy. He's in his late 20s. He's got 3 kids and a beautiful young wife. And so he needs term life insurance. So I'm going to go out, and while he's cleaning the pool, he can't go anywhere. He's got to clean my pool. I got at least 15 minutes to talk to him. Sells him a $1 million term life insurance policy. And that was one of his first bigger sales in his beginning of his career. Unfortunately, 12 months and like 15 days, which I won't even get to that, but 12 months, 15 days into the policy, which qualified the policy to mature under any circumstances. His wife and 3 kids came home at the end of the day, opened the garage to pull in, and her husband had hung himself from the garage rafters.
Jeez.
And he talked about the impact of when he showed up to her house and delivered. Back then, you actually delivered a death benefit check. And when he tells that story about finally the light bulb went on in his head of like what that $1 million did compared to the other 100 consoling cards and people gave them and flowers and everything else, what that $1 million did would take all 3 of those kids. 1 became an engineer and 2 became doctors, paid for their entire college education, helped her reestablish her career. And now she's making 6-figure plus.
Wow.
And all 3 of her kids are 27 years later. And he realized what he does, the significance and the importance of what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody wants to talk about life insurance. Nobody wants to talk about dying.
No.
But that story is actually what convinced me to leave my retail marketing business and come into his business. That was the story that compelled me to completely change the trajectory of my business.
Yeah. That's how impactful stories can be.
Right.
And why we need to tell them.
Right. So that being the case, what again, the three elements that you say is the, and of course you study some of the best marketers in the business, Russell Brunson. What's that three elements you have to have? And then let's start looking at examples of the right way and the wrong way to do them.
Okay. Well, this is also something that if you've ever watched a YouTube video or researched how to make YouTube videos, there's three elements that we've all discovered or defined as a hook, story, offer. And we talk about this all the time, and we'll go in deeper and break these down. But the hook is what stops the scroll or gets them to lean in, or it's the dog story. When you first walk on stage and you tell a story, there's emotional or there's emotion, there's curiosity, or there's tension, and it gets people to lean in. It gets them to like start listening. It stops them from scrolling.
Well, I think,
and it makes a connection.
I think the phrase that Russell Brunson used was pattern interrupt.
Yeah, pattern interruption.
So if your pattern is to scroll,
you got to stop the thumb.
Or if your pattern is to be on your phone during a workshop because you're bored, because somebody's rattling off 10 minutes of their expertise and their experience, the pattern interrupt is like stops everything that's going on in your brain. Every
eyeball is like now watching.
And now you're like leaning in focused because they jolted all of your attention into...
It's like that guy with the cigarette that we'll watch later. It's like everyone is just glued to what he's doing next. So it's that pattern interrupt.
So we're going to start hook.
And we'll
that's
talk about
grabbing their attention. Then
the story, which is the middle part, which is your story. It's your data. It's your facts and figures. It's your case studies. It's your building the case. And that's part of the story.
And the story, I loved the analogy. We were in Sandbox After Dark. We were talking about it's the exact formula that a trial attorney uses when they're giving their final wrap up at the end of the trial, and they go through this.
You got to build the case,
and they use story and persuasion and all these other things. So we'll talk about that, and then of course the offer, which
is the whole point of doing a presentation. Right. You have to present your offer. But there's a way to do it, and we often call it a CTA, a call to action,
or offer.
What is the offer is a little bit different. It's the thing, but the CTA is the action. Click the button, link below, sign up here, book a phone call. It's whatever that action is, because we default to procrastination.
Yeah.
If you don't tell them what to do, they're not going to do it. They're not going to know intuitively what to do.
So we'll get into that. Yeah. But the whole point is, if you don't hook people in any presentation, I don't care if it's social media or what we do with documentary films, webinars, or workshops, if you don't hook people and grab their attention, and everything else won't matter. That's why we're going to start with the hook. So before we jump into talking about the hook, I just want to go ahead and show our first video, and then we can go, we can narrate off of,
and these are examples of good hooks, right?
Well, we'll see.
Good and bad. Okay,
we'll see.
Find out.
Producer Marie is going to put them up. Let's do it. Any example? If not, then if we talk about hook, what are the three things? What are the three things in a hook until she's able to screen share one of those examples? Oh, here we go.
Tonight on Dateline.
What an unimaginable discovery. This is like a horror movie.
It certainly was. Good and evil are very real, and they exist where you least expect them.
I said, John, Where's my mom? I was absolutely panicked.
He came into the station to say his wife was missing.
John, what is going on? You have a wife that's missing. Where is
This
she?
has all the
Don't know where he is. You have
emotion.
has
someone,
all the emotion, the tension.
Yeah.
and then the second wife who goes missing. This is major. There's another wife that's missing. We're like, we're going to get him. This is it. We've got him.
John Smith was married to at least 2 women who disappeared.
And now he's about
Shocking.
to marry a
Emotional.
third.
He's a snake.
Curiosity.
He's slippery.
Your mom's the third.
Right. This is panic. They said, your mom is.
Tonight on Dateline.
So
Okay.
So that is a great hook. And if you've ever watched Dateline, they open every show like that. And in a hook, if you can hit one of those, the emotion, the tension, the curiosity, create that open loop. If you can do one of them, that's great. If you can do all three, that's and because what we call an open loop, it opens. Your brain is constantly trying to close that loop. It's trying to fill in that missing piece of the puzzle. And so if you can create that tension, emotion, curiosity, people are paying attention and now they want to get to the conclusion.
Yeah. And
that's what the story is for.
right. And the elements, obviously, making sure you have all three elements in that hook, getting people to emotionally engage, creating a tension or the open loop. It's an art.
It is. And something else you want to do is get to the point early. You don't want to, so like this is obviously, you know that it's a murder mystery or an investigation. So we know what it's about. We're leaning in and we want to know the conclusion.
Right. Okay. And it's always good to look at some of the best content out there. Dateline, Frontline, PBS. If you like
60
documentaries,
Minutes,
60
2020,
minutes.
Biographies.
Study the formulas. They're all using the same formula of the hook story offer. And even an example of a good hook is any really good movie trailer. A movie trailer makes it creates the emotional connection.
Curiosity.
Makes you the curiosity, want to see how the movie's going to play out.
I gotta go see this movie. Yeah.
And it creates the tension of introducing the hero, who the villain is, and who's going to win. Right.
And then the offer coming to theaters near you this summer.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so the recipe is the same. Let's take a look at another example. And Marie, you can either play it as we have a little bit of a delay, so we can play it as a straight video from our streaming platform, so we can get the video in, and then we'll come back. I don't have volume.
I think it's going out.
So anyway, the course I'm going to teach is called Financial Theory, and I'm going to talk about.
I think this is a bad example.
Yeah.
First class talking about the course and why you might be interested in it, and then I'm going to start with the course.
So that's just facts and data
in the semester, so I'm not going to waste this one.
Today, here's what you're going to learn. These 6 bullet points.
The course.
So it almost doesn't matter that there's an audio delay here. This is bad.
Yeah.
And this is the way a majority of advisors start their workshops.
I would say any person giving any sort of presentation just starts in with facts and figures and data. And here's what I'm going to tell you. And then I'm going to tell you some other stuff.
And even bore you with 5 minutes of, before we get started today, my name's Rob Susan.
Let me tell you all about me.
I'm the vice president, and I have these designations, and I've been in the business this long, and I have a radio show and a broadcast, and blah, 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 blah.
Snooze, swipe.
Yeah.
People just click away.
That's exactly what he did. And then here's what I'm going to teach you today. These 6 things. It makes me feel like I'm in a college class, which is exactly what that was. When you give presentations, please don't lecture people. The art of good speaking, public speaking, and good presentations is to take people through that emotional journey. And obviously,
you know who's really great at that too? I just thought of is Dave Chappelle, or there's other comedians, but they always have a story. It has a beginning, it hooks you in.
Yeah.
Then they tell some jokes, and then they usually kind of come right back and wrap it up.
Well, it makes good comedy.
Yeah, it's
and
that's a great formula.
And it's good to study comedy too, because you can see when they do it wrong, the room is silent. When they do it right, the room is rolling.
Yeah,
like they're laughing. So let's take a look at the montage. Marie, go ahead and play it straight from our streaming platform, so we can get the sound without the delay, and then we'll come back and discuss this next set of samples.
Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michelle's husband, Barack.
What's the scariest thing you've ever done? Or another way to say it is, what's the most dangerous thing that you've ever done?
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions?
Sadly, in the next 18 minutes when I do our chat, 4 Americans that are alive will be dead through the food that they eat.
Okay, now I don't want to alarm anybody in this room, but it's just come to my attention that the person to your right is a liar.
So I'll start with this. A couple of years ago, an event planner called me because I was going to do a speaking event, and she called and she said, I'm really struggling with how to write about you on the little flyer. And I thought, well, what's the struggle? And she said, well, I saw you speak, and I'm going to call you a researcher, I think, but I'm afraid if I call you a researcher, no one will come because they'll think you're boring and irrelevant.
It's funny the things you forget. I went to see my mother the other day, and she told me this story that I'd completely forgotten about, how when we were driving together, she would pull the car over, and by the time she had got out the car and gone round the car to let me out the car, I would have already got out the car and pretended to have died.
And what I want to suggest to you is that many of you are one well-constructed, one well-delivered talk away from absolute explosion of what it is that you want to do. What?
Great hooks.
Not only these were chosen because they've had millions and millions and millions of views, not just in the clips you've shown, but hundreds of creators have replayed these as the best hooks.
They're using it as an example of presenting a hook.
Now, when I watch all of those, you got to have some courage to do some of the things that they did.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it's humor, and most financial advisors, no offense, but most financial advisors,
most people,
aren't good comedians.
No,
because that is an art, just like public speaking. Go through some of these examples, if you can recall, on which ones used a certain element as kind of the leading element.
Well, some of them used a few of them.
We'll give an example of one specific one.
Like the smoking or the underwear guy, the curiosity. You're like, he hasn't even said anything, but everyone is paying attention. Like, what is he doing? Or the guy that told the story about getting out of the car and dying.
Yeah, like,
it's
what?
Like, now you're leaning in and you're thinking, what does this have to do with the reason I'm here? I thought I was coming to hear this thing, but now I'm confused. Now I'm really curious.
That's it. Curiosity. Opening up a speech and creating curiosity.
But if you don't have, like you said, the comedic skills, like Brene Brown, she told a personal story. You can bring in emotion. You can be vulnerable and just say, like your dad had, that's a great story. Like, when I got into life insurance, I thought it was this, but then I saw the effects of like how that impacted a family. That's a story.
But the reality is, he doesn't tell the second part of the story till later in his presentation.
Right.
He stops at the driving in and seeing the husband hanging from a rafter.
Yeah. And then that's curiosity,
Yes.
open loop.
Tension.
Now I need to see how the story ends. Where are we going with this? It's fascinating. If you really study storytelling, and I think there's even a book called Story Selling, isn't there?
And story brand, and
we're not teaching anything new. This has been marketing 101 for decades,
and we're just trying.
It's very difficult to perfect.
We're trying to just help financial professionals translate what has been taught in the movie industry and advertising and marketing industries. We're just trying to help financial advisors apply it to their business without going out. The first speaking course, I flew to Washington State and spent 10 days and $10,000. This was years ago, before we had access to all this education online, to learn how to develop this skill of storytelling.
Yeah.
And so, because that's how important this is, and we're trying to help provide this for free every single week here in the Sandbox. And Sandbox After Dark, we get into more nuances of it and
a little
debate
more relaxed version.
But we debate about it.
Yeah.
And the most important takeaway from all of these examples that you just saw is it left you with an open loop. Which creates the curiosity. In this industry, we just can't help ourselves. We want to give the answer,
You're
solution.
So excited about those facts.
The solution. It's like, I'm here to give you the solution. So we end up giving the solution like up front. And what does that do to sabotage a good hook?
And that's a great segue into story.
Yeah.
Because the story part is validating the problem.
Yeah.
And with empathy, with case studies, you got to shift that belief. But what you just said is dumping all these facts. We want to just provide results, but you can't provide results until you've really validated the problem inside the mind of your client.
Until you've persuaded somebody to care about your results.
Or believe that you understand my problem. And then that is caring, that's trust, right?
So before we transition into the formula of the middle piece, which is storytelling, once you've hooked them with a curiosity and emotional connection, you can then transition into storytelling. But before we go there, I want to play the clip. There was a small clip with an open loop about a guy lighting a cigarette in a building that is not permitted to smoke a cigarette.
We don't smoke indoors anymore.
Or putting underwear on. But I want to go back to this is probably the #1 most taught hook in universities, master classes, and it's probably 15, 20 years old, and that's him trying to light a cigarette. So we can go ahead and play it from our streaming platform, so there's no delay. Let's go ahead and take a look at the most famous clip of the most famous hook.
This speaker does something unusual. Watch till the end.
Oh, you all think smoking kills? Let me tell you something. Do you know that the amount of people dying from diabetes are 3 times as many people dying from smoking? Yet if I pulled a Snicker bar, nobody will say anything. Do you know that the leading cause of lung cancer is not actually a cigarette? I use these arguments, even though I just made them up, with a group of my friends. And the results, 5 of them believed what I said. two of them started smoking.
Again, probably the best case study I've ever come across on a great hook. But the reason I showed that is to help us transition into the storytelling, because this longer version of the video and its highlights of the entire presentation is that, one, he's using humor, tension, curiosity. But do you see how he used the hook to make his point? And his point is that there are, in his speech or his TED Talk, is that we've been programmed to think a certain way about the dangers of smoking. And he's trying to make a presentation about, hey, but what about all these other 20 things that are killing us faster? And he's not arguing that smoking doesn't kill. What he's trying to make the point is, you're all so freaked out about the dangers of smoking, but what about these other 20 things that are killing people?
Yeah.
And then he starts to build the argument for all these other dangers that you
Other
should
health
be
concerns.
that you should be. And then that transitions into him building his story. So let's get into story. There's 5 elements of constructing a good story after the hook. What are those 5 essential elements?
We want to build, show empathy, escalate the situation, or first we need to validate the problem.
Yes.
Validate the problem with using empathy. Then we escalate the problem with case studies, testimonials, and the whole point is we're trying to shift the belief. We're taking someone from what they believe to be true or what they don't believe will actually work and shift them over, let them know that we understand their problem, present the solution, and trying to shift their belief. And we want to be by agitating the problem.
Okay. So in After Dark, after a couple glasses of whiskey, I did write down a summary of what you just said. Step 1, validate the problem. Now, if I had been proactive enough, I'd have a bullet point list on the screen. But for the sake of your patience, I'm going to just give it to you verbally.
Just go for it.
Validate the problem. Create an emotional connection, because you can validate the problem, but if they don't see themselves as identifying, like, that's not a problem for me. For instance, you talk about the dangers of drinking, but you're talking to somebody who doesn't ever drink. Well, then there's no emotional connection because they don't struggle with that problem.
Well, and that's also why empathy is involved too, because if they do struggle with that problem, nobody wants to be told that they're dumb or they're doing something wrong or they're stupid. And again, I think that's what the facts and figures and just going into all the reasons and results will throw up roadblocks of objection.
Okay.
And we'll talk about objection handling later, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm going to push back.
Okay.
Because this is what the After Dark is for. I'm trying to give you the breakdown of the 5 simple steps.
Sorry, I'm going too deep.
That's what we debated about last night in After Dark.
Yeah.
But you have to validate the problem. So you need third-party proof to validate this is a real, legitimate problem, not because I'm telling you. In the smoking presentation, he literally told you he lied to you and didn't validate the problem, and people still believed him. Point is, in a good storytelling, don't just tell people and assume they're going to trust you because you're telling them. Give some third-party data, validate the problem.
Some background.
Make sure that you give some examples, testimonials, case studies where you create a variety of different types of people who care about this problem so they can see themselves in that story. Yeah, you may agree with this problem, but if you're over 50, everybody below 50 dismisses themselves and they don't make that emotional connection.
Right.
And then 3, escalating the problem, talking about, let me show you why you need to pay attention to this problem now. And that's that sense of urgency. That's step 3. Step 4, proof and credibility. And that comes from third-party validation. You need to use people.
That's where the case studies come in.
Well, not just even case studies. I'm just thinking like research studies by reputable organizations that people trust, interviews from high-ranking people that people know and trust. That's that whole proof of credibility. You're using third-party data to validate your credibility of what you're teaching. And 5, the final step, and that's the revelation. The revelation being, okay,
that aha moment.
I agree. I should be more concerned about this.
Ah, now I get it.
And this happened to me this week when somebody introduced me to this whole concept of the beer method or beer list or beer. I was like, beer? What are you talking about? And then he brought me through a story of his wife having early dementia. And when we got to the end of the story, he's like, the beer, I can't even remember the name of it, but it's basically a list of medications that is 60% more likely to cause early onset dementia. 60% of it could be avoided if you just avoid these 10 medications after age 50. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, now I'm listening. Because I turned 50
that's the
most
revelation.
recently. And yes, it's the revelation. I wasn't even aware of the problem, but he validated it. He showed third-party proof. I even looked it up while listening to him, and it's a legitimate issue. Doctors are actually using this list and encouraging people to avoid these medications if you're concerned about early onset. So that's the idea of going through this story process. But let's use a particular documentary, and for the sake of example, let's see if I do any better of a job of sharing my screen, and we can give examples of each step of the problem. But step 1, validate the problem.
40 seconds.
All right. So we'll get to the 40. Let me see if
Are we on screen share?
I got to do. You're right. The joys of being live. Okay. I should do an entire Chrome tab. Yeah.
Yeah, that top one right there.
Okay.
Select the top.
Oh, there we go. Thank you for the assist. We'll go to 40 seconds and we'll show you an example of validating the problem right there. Okay, we'll play it from here, and here we go. In the early days, America's government was funded almost entirely by tariffs and excise taxes. Your wages, your farm, your savings, untouched.
For most of the 19th century, Americans never filed a federal tax return. The idea of taxing your labor was seen as radical, even un-American.
But wars change everything. The Civil War brought a temporary
Yeah, this is where I
income
wanted to
tax.
be. And
In 1913, temporary became
it's going back
permanent
into
with
history.
the 16th Amendment. They promised it would only touch the rich, less than 2% of Americans at the time. They promised it would be temporary.
The income tax will only touch
And
the
we got some
wealthiest
third-party validation there.
sparing the great body of our people.
Yeah,
But once
we're
Washington
telling
opened that door,
historical
it never
facts
closed.
that can be
That's how the
confirmed.
IRS was born. And with it,
Just
a system
replicating
that
it in
would
AI,
gradually
but
expand
still
to
telling a
touch
story
nearly
that everybody
every
can
American
verify
paycheck.
and
My father
relate to.
used to say income tax was for the
Okay,
rich.
so I'll stop
Now
it there.
I'm
That's
retired.
validation, just going back and building the case for it. And then there's emotional connection.
1813.
Okay, so
or do we want to do escalation?
No, it's number 2 is emotional connection.
1813 on the video.
Okay, so we'll go, here we go. We'll play it from here. Just make sure we
The
the
wealthy
front end of
use to
this.
fight back.
There we go.
Alan Weir, who turned 60 this month, showed us his latest 401k statement, which he hadn't
And
had
this is
the
the scene
courage
that
to
we
open
pulled
up.
out from 60 Minutes.
There's good reason for his trepidation.
Documentaries,
Nearly half of
yeah.
his life savings have vanished in a matter of months.
But it really
down
builds
again.
that emotion on
How much you down overall?
why the problem is so significant.
About $140,000.
You think you'll ever get it back?
I mean, I would probably never see it come back. I was looking to retire probably when I hit 62. Can't do it now. I'll probably be working until I'm at least 70.
They told us retirement was about how much you could save.
Now, so that obviously that's a real life story. That's actually a clip we took that is a legitimate story from a legitimate job fair of who's really struggling, and they're expressing their frustration and disappointment. Now, of course, that did go back to 2008 crisis, but still
relevant.
Well, and most people lived through that.
Yeah,
so
they remember.
And they remember. So step 3, we're going to do escalation, creating a sense of urgency.
4 minutes and
So
5 seconds.
Let's, here we go.
And these don't necessarily have to be in order, but they have to be present in the story part of this.
In building the case,
yes.
Correct.
The government, are they going to need more revenue in the future? Yes or no? Everybody says yes. Is it possible they could need a lot more revenue? Of course it is. They're going to transfer wealth from those that have to those that don't. And the 90% of the people in America who don't have any money have the votes to make sure that that transfer will happen. So it's very, very important that people do planning now while they can stay in
And this
control.
one kind of does double duty because it builds that escalation, but it's also building that emotional
Correct.
And the credibility for the problem.
Right. So that's a
escalating
a reputable advisor who's well known and highly successful, making the case for if you don't realize how significant this problem is and you don't do something about it now, it could absolutely ruin and devastate your retirement. And which builds on that story of the guy who went to the job fair because his retirement was destroyed.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was proof of the problem. Yes.
So proof, that's number 4. So proof of the problem.
Yeah. Proof and credibility, 10 minutes, 35 seconds.
Okay. So here we go.
And these are just elements of good storytelling.
These are one of many examples we could show, but this is an actual politician, and I think he's an economic expert.
And least afford it.
And we're taking a hell of a bet because, we have to start reforming entitlements, or we will, in my view, we will have to raise taxes. Now, precisely how high it's going to be, there's a lot of room to debate, but people will have to pay more taxes. And that's painful. But you can't get away with stuff forever for nothing.
Okay.
We thought we'll travel.
So the last one is the revelation. The revelation is maybe I should do something about this.
Yes. It's that epiphany that the audience has suddenly where they're not only agreeing with you, but they're coming to the conclusion themselves.
So let's go ahead and show example of
2755.
revelation. I can see that. Oh, getting old and losing your vision is a pain. 55. I'm just going to play it from here and it'll transition in for you. Let's do this as we wrap up this essential 5 elements.
Legacy look like if your wealth stayed intact for generations? Funding education, faith, freedom, and opportunity instead of being consumed by inflation, taxes, and fees. What could your family accomplish if your money worked for them instead of Wall Street or Washington? Would it be worth scheduling a simple 20-minute conversation to learn how families like yours are already doing it? That's what the great families of history did. And now, through the LIFT method, you can too. Here's what happens when you take the next step. First, clarity. These calculators help you see the big picture, what your savings could really mean after taxes and inflation. Second, your personal LIFT session. This is where we take your results.
So
and
I'm going to pause it here, and that kind of wraps up our storytelling 5 elements here. Now it's getting into the which is the last of the 3 important elements. We've given you the formula for each of the 3 important elements. hook, story, offer.
Mm-hmm.
This just transferred into the offer.
Yes. And the offer is, the thing that you're presenting, right? And you, like we said earlier, there's a CTA, which is a call to action, the thing you want them to do. And if you can include urgency and scarcity in that, even better.
Perfect. Okay, so the 3 takeaways from a good offer is a clear call to action.
Because people naturally will procrastinate.
And
they won't know what to do.
Well, you need to be specific and not confuse them. Don't give them 3 different options that they can do.
Yeah, and don't
tell them exactly what you want them to do.
And don't assume that they'll know.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you make it clear,
click the button, do this thing, book this call.
But then add a sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, oh yeah, here's our offer, and you can call us at any time, whenever you want, and we'll do this for you.
Yeah, day or night, 24/7, we're available. And it needs to be. There's a reason why you need to do this now.
And
why is now so important?
And there's scarcity. We're not doing this for everybody.
Yeah,
we're only going to do this for this unique group of people. Maybe just the people watching, just the people who are attending the workshop.
It could be as simple as there's only 20 seats available.
Could be that too.
If you don't book now, you're going to miss out.
Now we are having to speed up to make sure that we can kind of wrap up by the end of the hour, but we are going to give you an example of the king of the hook, story, offer methodology, Russell Brunson, the creator of ClickFunnels platform, the most successful sales funnel platform ever that I have come across. And let's show a quick example, and we'll do a screen share on this one more time. We're going to show you the master of how to do the right formulated offer. Oh, we have to do it. That's right.
New screen share.
Yes. Okay.
Blue button.
There we go.
Nope. The one there next to it. There you go. Screen share.
Here we go.
Don't you love live? The dark truth right there.
And here it is. Just need to get it on screen.
We're good.
And here we go.
Salespeople with one presentation that converts to 20%. If you can speak to up to 1,000 people in the same time it takes you to have 2 sales calls, and if you finally had certainty to know that you now have the skill set that you need to create your own economy, no matter who's in the White House or who's running Wall Street, what would that be worth? And as one last special bonus to help push you over the edge, I also want to give you access to the Lost Outer Print book that started this all. I paid $12,500 for a first edition copy of Propaganda by Edward Bernays, and it was worth every penny I paid. That tiny $12,500 investment has made me 100 times more money than if I took that same money and I put in Bitcoin back in 2014. Propaganda is out of print. I was able to acquire the rights to make a copy for attendees of Selling Online. When you get your ticket now, I'm going to give you a rare digital copy of Propaganda, as well as my personal notes from this book and a video showing you the things I discovered and how I then implemented those things into my presentations. But that bonus, as well as the $100 ticket, disappears when we pass the first 100 seats. Now, this is the moment of decision. You are at a crossroads.
And here's
you
your
can
moment
keep
of
doing what you're
decision.
doing,
This is
grinding out one-to-one sales, hoping things will get better, and watching others seemingly print money online while you struggle, or you can master the lost art. You can learn the psychological weapons that Bernays used to manipulate nations, that I used to build $1 billion company, that countless ordinary people have now used to transform their business in just weeks. But you have to decide now. Because once we hit 100 registrations, the price more than doubles.
Once we hit 100 registrations,
it goes up 10x. This is the final time I'm teaching this. There won't be another chance.
That's why he's the master.
Recordings won't be sold. This knowledge will either
First
be yours
20 people
or
get.
The choice is yours. But you got to choose quickly, because while you're thinking about it, others are taking action. And the seats and the early bird pricing are disappearing fast. So click on the button down below to secure your seat at Selling Online for just $100 while it lasts. Your future self will thank you.
I mean, this
your
is
bank
all.
account will thank you.
I'm going to
and
wrap it up
thousands
here
of
because it goes on and continues. I think most financial advisors make the mistake of doing just kind of this like soft, well, hey, if you'd like to more, just kind of schedule a call.
Yeah.
And
people, why are people so afraid to sell? It's our business. We don't get customers if we don't sell them on
however,
something.
If you don't do the hook and the story properly,
That's when it gets sleazy.
Hard sales get sleazy.
Yeah.
So do the front part correctly and give them value. And if you give them enough value, then you can sell as hard as you want at the end and make it as clear as possible. And also value your time.
Yeah.
Like if you're giving away a free strategy call, it shouldn't be free. Most advisors will charge $2,500 to $5,000 for developing a retirement projection or retirement plan proposal. And so if you're going to give that away as a free service at the end, and that's your offer, lean into it and talk about most of my clients pay this amount. It's worth this amount. And it's only going to be available if you call or schedule tonight before you walk out the door. Otherwise, it's going to go back to its retail price.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not sleazy. It's just value your time. If your time is worth a certain amount per hour.
Well, and people don't really value things that are just given away for free anyway, or if it's done so casually that it's like, well, I could call him next week. If there's no value in it because there's no urgency. If I can call you anytime, why should I call you tomorrow? I'm not ready. I'll just call you in 6 months.
I'll call you when I feel like it.
Yeah.
And we all procrastinate. So that's exactly what human nature will do.
But in the offer, we should also include stacking the value, what you just said. That's another component that I forgot about, because if you don't value it, if it's not worth someone paying something for, well, then why would I get it for free?
I'll give you a perfect example.
When they give away free stuff at a store, you know it's valuable because it's normally $50, but I get it for free. That's awesome.
And I have a client that will do a retirement plan if you sign up before you walk out the door. And if you do that, you get his book for free. And as a bonus, he'll do a free will estate planning. He'll put together a will and power of attorney and a healthcare directive for you as an added bonus. You add up all of those services, and it's now $6,000 to $10,000, depending on who the advisor is. And which, by the way, offering most people can do a will, power of attorney, and healthcare directive for free if they were willing to spend half a day researching how to do it. It doesn't cost a financial professional, maybe for helping them get a notary to sign it. Aside from the $25 that may cost, everything else, if they have someone in their office that can do that for them, people can learn to do for free, but they've procrastinated, haven't done it. They've been meaning to do it, and it's a bonus. So why not go ahead and value stack? And hey, just because I appreciate you guys showing up tonight, and I want you to get the most amount possible out of tonight, here are the things I'm going to add to it if you sign up tonight, but only if you schedule that appointment tonight.
And a great way to transition into, for those people that don't like selling, once you've given your presentation, you've told your story, a simple way to transition into it would be ask permission. Like, well, now that I've shown you all of this stuff, would it be okay if I present my solution?
Right.
And I'll show you everything that I can do for you. And of course, people are going to go, yeah. And that makes them even more curious and lean in because you ask them.
Well, who's not going to nod yes?
Yes.
If you've given a good hook and a good,
which is a whole nother sales strategy we can talk about, which is micro commitments.
And
when you get people nodding yes, they're agreeing with you the entire presentation, and now they're going to agree with your solution.
And you're adding another element. When you're sitting in a room, that's the benefit of live. If you're doing a live workshop, if you're sitting in the room and you're not sure whether you want to nod your head or not, but all 99% of the other part of the room is nodding their head, you'll nod your head just because you want to like follow the crowd, be part of the tribe, right?
Right.
So there is so much that goes into this, so much psychology, but what we're trying to tell you is none of this is new. This is a repeatable process that has been studied by universities, professors, research studies, super successful financial professionals, marketers.
Yeah, I mean, sales training.
Sales training. we're just trying to condense it down and apply it to the financial professional industry. It doesn't matter whether you're a loan broker, life insurance agent, retirement planner. It doesn't, a brokerage manager. It doesn't matter. It's universal. We're just trying to give you examples of how you can apply it specifically to your situation, and everything we gave you today, and then plus a ton more bonuses. The actual software, script writers, the format we taught today is all available for free in the private membership, the Sandbox. You just have to go to wealthvids.com/sandbox, and
we've got custom GPTs, things that we can, AI tools that you can implement and start doing this if you're so inclined. Do this yourself.
And our investors keep telling us that start charging for the membership. But this really is Brian and I's mission to help you each week, tell you everything you need to know. If you want more, join the membership now before we have to start charging the membership fee for it. And I'm telling you, the resources grow by 10% every single week. Everything we learn, we give to our team, we make available for free in the Sandbox. It is absolutely worth joining. And you can start building scripts yourself for live webinar, documentary style videos,
social media content. You can do this on a micro level, on a 1-minute video, as easily as you can do it on a 20-minute long documentary.
If you're not sure where to start, because we're trying to wrap up quickly, and you would like to specifically have a conversation about one specific issue that you're struggling with, I always offer a 15-minute strategy call where I can point you in the right direction for the one thing that you feel like you are stuck on that's keeping you from moving forward. And that's schedule15minutes.com. Again, schedule15minutes.com. And I'd be happy to match you up with the right solution from our bank of resources, and I'll make it available to you. Next week, our challenge, we're going to transition into actual script writing based on this formula.
Yep.
So you can either join the Sandbox and take advantage of all of our prompts and formulas, or take everything you learned today and use that format to build a script and submit those scripts to us. Again, you can do that through the Sandbox or rob@amhsupport.com, rob@amhsupport.com. Submit those, and we're going to select the 2 or 3 best scripts that get turned in over the next 7 days. And that's what we'll be focused on next week. So thank you for your extra time today, and join us next week
on the Sandbox,
9 a.m. Pacific time. And we look forward to seeing you next week.